everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. I am here with a special guest, Sarah from Sarah's Story Chronicle, and we are going to talk about the Count of Monte Cristo. We are cousins, and we have buddy read this book over the course of a year.
Yeah.
It was a long journey, and it's a long book. But because we buddy read this, we want to talk about it together. I do have a series called Timeless Tomes where I talk about big books over 500 pages that are classics, and this definitely counts. So we would like to just talk about our thoughts on this and share why we think you should pick this up, because we both loved this book.
Yes. Yeah, this was one that, I first discovered this through the movie, actually, and I really liked it. So reading the book was interesting because it is definitely different, but I actually like it as an adaptation, but it was enough to get me into it, so,
I think that's the best thing about movie adaptations. They can get you into a source material. But this one was fun to read because I had never read it aside from watching the movie, and then you had read the abridged version.
Yes.
So reading the full version together was a new experience for both of us.
And I didn't actually know it was the abridged version, because even the abridged version was this thick. So
it's a huge abridged version. I've seen them online. Yeah. So we want to talk about a couple main themes in this book. First of which, we actually want to talk about the adaptation and how they did with translating it.
Yeah.
So there's a couple complaints, but most of them are really positive for the most part.
This is one case where I actually am okay with a lot of the changes they made. It is quite different from the book, but because of the size of the book, that was kind of inevitable. And the thing about this book is it's not just long in terms of physical length, it's dense. So
yeah,
they kind of had to cut a lot of stuff.
There's so many characters.
Yeah, and they all have major plots. So basically what they did is they cut out all but one or two of the plots and adapted those.
Yeah, and it was a little annoying how they changed the end when we read the ending of the book. It was like, oh, that changed the ending.
Yes.
But I think it did well for the movie that they were making and how they resolved it. I just was like, that's a little odd, to say the least.
Yeah, if you've only seen the movie, I don't think this really counts as a spoiler, but maybe put up a warning if it is.
Spoiler alert, just in case, for anything related to this book.
Yes. They actually cut his main love interest from the book for the movie and kind of changed the romantic subplot.
It's a little heavy.
Yeah, so they actually cut his main love interest from the book and then changed his previous romantic relationship with someone else for the movie.
It was definitely a change.
Yeah.
But it was good how they combined the characters because there really was no way to do the book justice in a film. There was no way to do it justice. You would have to do it over a miniseries or a TV series even because of just how much content the book has.
Yeah, it has 3 main villains and all of them have fully developed plots, so.
It's quite an interesting revenge tale too with that whole, it follows every single villain, and I really like how Edmund starts off such a pure, innocent person, and he's really the hero. And then I feel like it's not giving away too many spoilers because about 20 chapters in, which is about maybe a 10th or a 5th of the book in, he goes to prison for this and then escapes. And that's when he becomes a villain.
Yes.
He turns from the hero to the anti-hero.
Yeah, he basically changes from the embodiment of sunshine and rainbows and puppies, except heroic, into a vampire without the supernatural powers, but also kind of with them sometimes.
It's a little spooky. You can't really tell.
Yeah, there are times where he's described in very inhuman terms a lot.
Yeah, but he always seems to blend in, and no one ever notices him until it's too late.
He's very, very good at blending in. He has a really good chameleon aspect to him.
Yes.
Which kind of got cut from the movie, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think it's very present. He does make a show whenever he comes in, but it's very easy for him to disguise himself as someone else. And that is something that the movie definitely missed out on, that quality. Especially with one particular scene towards the end where he has a bit of a heart for once.
Yeah.
He's very heartless for most of the book, but he's actually created that way. The prison creates him to be that way. But it's interesting to look at that and be like, wow, he actually has a heart, but then he transforms himself and he is able to do something really heroic, which is kind of shocking for his character at that point.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really liked about that moment actually was that the reason his heart softened was because he saw consequences of something that he had done.
Yeah.
that I'm not going to say. So
That's a bit too much spoilers.
yeah, that's like really, really big spoiler.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's worth picking up, I think. We definitely struggled when reading it with the backstories of the backstories of the backstories.
She's not kidding.
Like, literally, there'd be a chapter we would read, and we'd be like, who is this? Why do we care? We don't understand. And then the next chapter would be like, oh, that story was connected to this story, but we still don't know why we should care. And then finally, that story was revealed to have a part in the big story overall a couple chapters later. And it was just like, we didn't need that then, at least in my opinion.
Probably the worst situation where this happened was probably when we were hearing about a minor character who works with the Count, and then to find out his backstory, we were told the backstory of a character from his backstory. And this like backstory squared character never shows up in the main plot, is never relevant to the main plot, except in how he
relates to that minor character.
This minor character.
Yeah, it was a little disjointing, maybe, I would say, from the main plot. I also really loved how this development of character, at least for other people too, but you don't really, so the main thing that was about this was that you first see through Edmund's eyes, and then after prison, you don't see through Edmund's eyes again. Like, it's all about those around him, how they perceive him, and how they perceive the events. It is very fascinating to have that insider look and then be removed when he's turning into the villain, and the anti-hero, and then being disjointed again, being like, what's going through his mind? Because you just don't know.
Yeah. Like, there are scenes when you don't even know if he's present. There's someone who could be the Count, but we're not sure if it's him in disguise or if it's just a random person, which is really effective and slightly terrifying at times. But that's kind of the point, so.
Yeah. He definitely is not an easy person to get along with, I would say.
No. He has like 2 people who like him when he's
in the world. Yeah. But I think also he just has such a facade up the whole time. You just can't break through that facade. You don't know what he's really like until, the very end, I think. And even then you don't really know what he's like.
Because he's been hurt so badly at this point by everyone, basically, except for like one person, that he doesn't want to let anybody in. And on top of that, he's also extremely cunning and intelligent, and he has all the monetary resources he could ever hope to need. Actually, that a small country could probably hope to need.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. And the way he gets into his revenge arc is just so sad at times, where it's like, if he had changed his mind, if he had been released, was it one more day later?
I think so, yeah.
If he had gone free one day later, he would not have been pledged to have this revenge plot against everyone who sent him to prison.
Yeah.
And falsely accused him. But literally the only good deed that he does after his revenge plot is because of its connection to the one person who stood beside him when he was convicted.
Well, 2 if you count Haiti.
That's true.
Yeah.
But like the one in regards to the revenge plot, the whole villainous and murderous ways of everyone around him, that one moment is only connected to the family who stood beside him. And that's the only reason why he does it. Well, at least at that point. He does realize that.
That's kind of the
he's
turning
created
point
problems.
So.
But yeah, he just only cares about one family in this world, aside from one other person who he definitely has a strong attachment for, which is a little creepy sometimes.
Yeah, there are moments when it's like, really? Moving on. Okay.
It's also really interesting because I'm reading War and Peace right now, and this takes place right after the Napoleonic War, and the War and Peace is all about the Napoleonic War. And so it's very interesting had walked into War and Peace with the background knowledge of what Edmund went through at the beginning with Napoleon, and then walked into it and I was like, oh, this is actually the backstory of Napoleon. So it's actually very interesting to have that tie right now in my head.
There's one supporting character that I just absolutely love in this book, and I can't remember his name right now, I'm sorry, but he's the grandfather of one of the supporting characters. He's actually one of the villain's father, and he is awesome. He's actually paralyzed basically completely. He can't speak, he can't move at all, but he communicates through his eyes with his granddaughter, and it's incredible. He's basically her emotional support in a really hard situation, and
he's really the only one who's there for her, because everyone else in her life basically is just wanting what they can get out of her.
Basically. Yeah. And The way he goes about it is so great, because like it's basically like, yeah, I can't move, but I can still do something. So
Oh yeah.
don't touch my granddaughter.
And he's still the head of the family and head of the finances, even if he is paralyzed. So he definitely has power over certain people in his life, which is a very good thing because they do not need any more power.
Really, they don't. Some of them are actually scared of him, I believe.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, and he's very, very smart. So, and a good thing too.
Yes, definitely.
That is one omission from the movie that I am very sad about. Like, he's in the movie very briefly, but it's like 2 scenes and he's nothing like his book counterpart. I understand why he was cut, but it does make me a little sad.
Yeah, definitely. One more thing that I really like about this book is it doesn't just take the revenge plot, it just takes the revenge plot and gives it steroids.
Yeah,
like,
oh my goodness, yes.
It just gives massive steroids to this and just jumps it up. Like, the Count isn't going to, and it's interesting because it's like, when I think of Edmund, I think of him as the young innocent boy. When he's the villainous character that he is the Count in my mind.
Yes, they almost seem like different people.
Completely opposite. So when the Count is like extracting revenge on everyone, he doesn't just kill you. He takes everything you possibly value, turns it on its head and makes it value him, and then tortures you with it and then kills you.
Well, he doesn't even kill you. He just leaves
Lets
you alive.
you live with it to die.
Yeah. And it's like,
Wait,
how many decades have you spent on this again, Edmund?
Is it what's the banker's name? I don't remember.
Oh,
Because the one with the horses and the wife?
yeah.
Is that the banker?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, my brain, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he used to be the first mate on the ship that Edmund worked for.
Yes. Yeah, and it's just an interesting revenge story with him. I'm going to just give spoilers for that bit right now because I really want to talk about it. When his wife has these amazing horses, and then he decides the Count decides that he wants them. And he doesn't tell you, like, you don't know why he wants them, but you just know that he wants them. And so then he buys them off of the banker, who is the villain in this subplot. And then the wife gets mad because they're her prized horses. And so then he sells them back to the wife. And suddenly the wife values him more than her husband. And that's just one small little instance where he's like, oh, I'm going to extract revenge, but first I'm going to get your wife's loyalty before I extract revenge, which is part of it.
Well, that's also how he gets into the banker's social circle.
Completely.
So he gets into this man's social circle because he doesn't know who the Count is. He has no idea that this guy is someone he used to know. So he does it by getting himself allied with the wife, basically. But he also manages to stay on the banker's side this way. So he doesn't seem like he's splitting them up, but he totally is dividing them.
He's becoming a wedge, which they don't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the only thing he does with those two. Yeah.
That's just one instance of that sub-story.
Although my favorite subplot actually is the villain story with the magistrate who sent him to prison.
Yes.
But that's because Valentine's my favorite character. So.
Yes. There's so many great ones, and even the little character who wrote the letter, and he didn't really have any part of writing the plot or creating the plot. He even has his own just desserts too, with the way he's treated at the end.
Yeah,
like
it's not as brutal as what the others get.
Very little revenge tale because he didn't do much, but he got it. This is not a book about forgiveness. Just putting it blatantly.
In a way, though, I think it is a book about letting go of your anger.
It is. It's about not holding grudges, but it's not a book that displays forgiveness on a regular basis.
Ooh. Definitely not. 20 years. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it really does eat him up, though, the Count. He really has to learn to deal with it.
That's the thing, is it kind of, like I said earlier that he kind of seems like a vampire, and it's almost like his revenge has vampirized him, where it's like he's cold to the touch. His voice has changed because
he's ghostly white.
Yeah, he's very, very pale. He doesn't seem human, and again, he's described in terms of of a lion at one point, of many different types of animals. And some people, there's really only one character who ever sees through him, and he doesn't really realize it, but at one point the Count touches his hand, I think, for some reason, and this young man realizes the Count's hand is cold. And not like, oh, you have a cold hand, like, you're dead, you feel dead.
Yeah. It's a little supernatural, which is kind of just an interesting factor to this book.
Yeah.
Because he is human, you believe.
As far as we're aware, he is human, but there are certainly some scenes where kind of casts some doubt in your mind.
It definitely is a speculative novel at that. Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure the author was paid by line.
By word?
Yeah, either by, yeah. So it explains the length of the book.
Yeah, you can always tell those authors who are paid by the word. Dickens was another one of those who's paid by the word. So you can tell the length of the book when they're paid per word. The more money, the better, right?
Pretty much.
Well,
yeah.
that's the moral of this book in some ways.
Well, and it
Not
was
really.
serialized as well.
Yes. Best advice possible, if you are at least a little bit interested, maybe watch the movie first. You can get more intrigued by it and then do that. But if you don't want to, pick it up and just keep going. It's such a great read.
And it does pick up once he is arrested, or once he escapes, actually. So it's
Yeah.
a tiny bit slow before that, not much. But once he escapes, yeah.
It's actually a funny story because I was reading it while we were camping and Sarah wasn't there, so I was just reading my section for our weekly or monthly whatever, or weekly chat, and the section ended right after he escapes from prison. Like that was the chapter end that we were supposed to stop. And so I finished it. I was like, oh, that's really great. I can't wait to keep reading. And so then like a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, I want to go back and reread, how he escapes. And so I read the escape scene and then I just kept reading. Like I read another chapter or two before I realized I should have stopped. And so it hooked me. So, I mean, I think it's a really great book. Yeah. So highly recommend. We think everyone should at least try it. It has a lot of everything, I think, for a lot of people. But it definitely is a quite complex tale.
Oh, yes.
There's no simple layers to this book. So that is our review, thoughts, comprehensive why you should pick up The Count of Monte Cristo. We hope you do check it out. Check out Sarah's channel. It'll be linked below. And we hope to see you next time with another video, both on Sarah's and my channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
So they actually cut his main love interest from the book and then changed his previous romantic